Alright, how everybody doing?
Hi.
It's Dave and Courtney today.
Yes. We are coming to y'all to talk about what we've been going through for almost the last 8 months. The situation started, basically, we had the school board come to us because this apartment that we rented has roaches. And my daughter took some to school. Well, the school board comes to me and she's like, well, your landlord says that you can change your rent. And I'm like, what do you mean change my rent? I'm like, we wrote a letter. She's like, well, you could write a letter and tell them that your husband or your fiance does not have a job. And I'm like, but we already wrote a letter. And she's like, they're lying to you. These roaches were already here. These are not my roaches. I don't care what you say. And don't let them lie to you. These are their roaches. Everybody in the building has them. Mm-hmm. Okay. So she goes, she talks to them. She comes back, tells me about the rent. And I'm like, okay, cool. So me and him write a letter. And this is in November. We also wrote a letter in April when we redetermined for our apartment. Okay, so after that, a few days go by. I get a call from the landlord's wife. The landlord's wife is like, oh, well, we got a sticky situation. And I'm like, what sticky situation? And she's like, oh, well, your husband's been standing on the corner collecting money, telling jokes, and that is considered a charitable donation. Plus, on top of that, a woman told me that she gave y'all money to fix your car. I'm like, yeah, somebody offered to fix our car. And she's like, we have to account for all of that. And I'm like, so you guys owe us money and you have to account for the money that my husband is collecting because you guys are overcharging us in rent. So I ask her and I'm like, so what about the money, the back payment of the rent? And she's like, oh, I'll get Mike on it. Okay, fast forward a few days, like about a week or so after that, her husband calls me because I get an eviction notice for 7 days because I'm not paying rent. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. Okay, so I leave her husband, after I get the eviction notice, I leave her husband a message on his phone, on the phone at the business, the office of the apartments, basically. And I'm like, hey, Mike, this is Courtney. I just wanted to let you know that I will not be paying rent until the situation as far as the overpayment has been resolved. A few days later, I get a call from Mike. And he's like, Courtney, I don't appreciate you leaving the message as far as telling me that you're not going to pay rent. I'm pretty sure that me or any landlord wouldn't appreciate that. And there's a few things that we need to discuss. And I'm like, okay, Mike, first and foremost, my husband wouldn't be on the corner if you guys wasn't paying, if you didn't have us paying more than half of my check for our rent. I'm like, we are not only need to pay for milk, diapers, wipes. I got 2 kids in diapers. He 86 that he ain't paying no attention to that. He's like I was saying, and we got it all on recording for our purposes. Because basically what he was doing was, instead of calling me to tell me, hey, Courtney, I apologize for the inconvenience of the overpayment your rent. This is what we're going to do from here. He calls me to, 1, antagonize me, and 2, to poke a sleeping bear. In the conversation that me and him had, he tried to show that there was a difference in the letters that we wrote. Because we wrote one in April when we redetermined. And we wrote one in November, but we couldn't remember the exact date of when his last job was.
You okay?
So then he goes, well, okay, there's a discrepancy in the letters that you guys wrote us. At first, I didn't know what letter he was talking about because I'm like, we only wrote you one letter. He's like, now on April 4th. I'm like, yeah, I wrote that letter. You are correct, and that is the correct date. But if you have the letter, what is the problem? Mm-hmm. So then he tries to antagonize me like I'm a kid. And he goes, which one is it? What was it? April or June, or was it May or something, or June? It was about a month apart or so.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not understanding why he's trying to pick at me. So then he proceeds to tell me, in the process of me explaining the damage that they have caused, overcharging us in the rent for the 7 months, he tells me that I am yelling at him. He tells me that if I don't stop yelling at him, he's going to hang up on me. Then on top of that, he tells me, oh, well, you don't want to hear the good news? Like I'm a 2-year-old. I ain't 2, and I'm not your child. I don't care who you are. So he proceeds to hang up on me, telling me, well, when you want to hear the good news, call me back. Hella freeze over. I never called him back. So, fast forward. Here we are. They send us the check back for the rent that was overpaid for 7 months, with a letter on it saying, we need to account for the money that your husband collected during the time that we were overcharging you and y'all was struggling. We need for y'all to account for it. So basically what you telling me is that you want the money back for the overpayment of rent. You didn't feel as though you should have paid us back. So I'm standing firm on what I believe, and it's foul and it's wrong, and I don't care who you are. You have no right. As a landlord, this is your business. It does not belong to me. And to me, what he was doing was trying to intimidate me. But he doesn't understand that I'm not easily intimidated. I stand firm on what I believe and what I understand. And if there are any HUD representatives that would like to get in contact with me about this situation, please hit me on my inbox, because I know I ain't wrong. No way, no shape, no form, no how. Then on top of that, he proceeds to tell me about what the community tells him. So I tell him, so instead of coming to me as the source, you are going to the community. Make that make sense for me. And like I told him, he didn't call me to have a conversation with me. He called me to talk at me like I'm his child and expect me to listen without me having to say so in the conversation. I don't care who you are. You have no right to talk at me. We can talk together and have dialect and a conversation, but what you won't do is talk at me. He tells us that our account is not up to, what was it? Compliance. My question is that we sincerely need somebody to reach out and help us, because I know this is a multi-million-dollar lawsuit. I also know that they are wrong on multitudes of levels. My lights have been cut off. My water has been cut off twice. In the process of waiting on the check that they were supposed to do when they changed our rent amount, they waited an entire month to even put in for us to get the $1,100 back. They changed our rent in November. I know it's some kind of fraud going on. I know I done tapped into some shit, but I really can't, because I don't have the background on it. So if anybody could reach out to us, because I'm just as curious as anybody else. Because I want to know if anybody works for HUD, and is these HUDs, or is this them trying to get extra rent money out of us?
Hi, I'm Courtney. Hi,
Well,
Courtney.
I'm going to put in hashtag HUD.
You making it weird. Why you just
that's
saying
our
that?
story.
Oh my gosh, I didn't take this part out. How do you?
Just happened.
Basically, I just want to end this video off by saying, you know, it has been a hard progress for me and my family, a process. But honestly, I just feel like it's been a process, and you know, we wake up every day and we say we grateful, you know, even though we got the struggles and the hard times.
And this whole time we have been happy.
Right now, I'm not saying we out for nobody, but it's like she been saying, it's our time, and they, you know, they put themselves in this situation for
I'm not here to be nice no more.
You know?
I have allowed people to get over on me. I have
thank
allowed
y'all
a
for
lot.
watching. Thank you. Peace.
I'm in my no